Good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year to you. It is Monday, the 4th of January 2021. Do you remember growing up, well, if you're in my age group, when they said that by 1999 we'd have cars that'd be flying. We'd be in flying cars and everything would be very space age and so on and so forth. 1999 at the time was like, oh, can't imagine that. But now 2021, it's like, man, unbelievable. So yeah, I've just been busy. I've been busy working. I finished typing up someone's book on the 29th of December. So I took a bit of a break because it's a bit of a heavy topic. So I was taking a bit of a break and I'm working on someone else's book. So today I'm going to be doing a lot of transcribing, which I don't mind because outside it's really cold and really grey and it's just not inspiring me to go outside at all. Even though I might go for a walk because I haven't been for a walk in a few days. So might do that. But yeah, how are you all doing? Drop me a comment in the box below to let me know how your Christmas and New Year was. So, I was going to start the day with something motivational, inspirational. Well, on that note, I'm having a bit of a detox. Got my water and I've got my green juice. So, I'm just going to kind of love my system a bit because I was eating like crazy. Well, I was more snacking like crazy. I'm more of a snack fiend. I like nuts, crisps, chocolates, and things like that. Not really one for food, but I do eat obviously. But my thing of choice is snacks. I'm a snacky person, so loads of snacks. Me and my brother polished off a whole tray of Ferrero Rochers between us. We didn't even share it with my sisters, man. That was bad. Did we have 12 each or something like that? So yeah, I've got to sort that out, which is what I'm doing today. So I feel nice and virtuous. So today, I was going to start, like I said, with a very upbeat, positive message. But when I woke up this morning, I saw a message on my phone that somebody I knew had died due to liver failure caused by alcoholism. I wasn't entirely surprised because I've been hearing for a few years that this person was a heavy drinker, even though when I first knew them, they weren't, to my knowledge, drinking at all. They weren't. I was never close to this individual. And obviously she's gone through many things in life, but I believe personally the genesis of it was the death of her child back in the 90s due to hospital negligence. It was her oldest child. At the time, I don't think he was 10, was he 7 or something? Because of the carelessness of a doctor, it cost him his life. And as far as I can remember, what I can remember of her, she never recovered from that. Not that it's something you can recover from, but she kind of was spiraling from that time on, slowly, admittedly, but you could see that was something that was always very close to her. It was always a very present pain in her life. I never saw her break down and cry, but I wasn't one of her close friends, so she maybe did with people that she was close to. But I know that that undid her. That really caused her to unravel. And she had a lot of friends, a lot of people loved her and cared for her and everything, but obviously that pain was a pain that was unique to her. And I believe personally it started there. There would have obviously been other situations she was facing as life went on, but I know that that was the start of it all. She was never really able to find any kind of peace about the death of her son. And yes, it's very sad, very, very sad news, actually. She had a great support system. She wasn't on her own. Like I said, she had great friends, but ultimately, the decision to drink or to get sober was hers. And there's only so much they could do. I know she had some strong, wonderful people around her that really, really loved and cared for her. But when you're addicted, that doesn't always matter, unfortunately. What it reminded me of was something I learned many years ago, right? And that was that addictions are manifestations of unresolved issues. When a person has experienced or been through something traumatic and they haven't been given the tools to deal with that in a healthy manner, addiction is oftentimes the result. I remember years ago, again, I think this is where it really kind of was like a bucket of cold water in the face as to what the real thing with addiction was. A number of years ago, I was in North London with a friend, and we were just in the street talking. I think we'd gone somewhere together, or we just happened to bump into each other, so we started chatting and catching up. And then across the road, we saw 2 other people that we knew. So we went over there and started chatting to them. And then as we were talking, one of the ladies there was looking over my shoulder and kind of like smiling or laughing at somebody across the street. I turned around and all I could see was a guy in a black pea coat and a black woolly hat, and he was making some kind of gesture to her. I couldn't read it. And I turned back to her and I said, "Do you know him?" And she kind of said in a nervous way, "Yeah." It was like that she said it. I was like, "Oh, okay. Maybe this is her way of telling me to mind my own business or whatever." So I didn't say anything. 2 or 3 minutes later, this guy was now standing in between us because like there's the two ladies we were talking to were one side and me and my friend were the other side. This guy kind of slid in between. He's talking to the lady at the end, and he's very close to her. And like she had a very particular way about her. Do you know what I mean? Very, very particular way about her. She would never ever let someone get that close to her. Certainly not a guy looking like that. Then all of a sudden, turned around and said, "Hiya, hiya." And he said my name, and when I looked, it was my pastor, or a guy who just up until what 2 or 3 months ago had called my pastor, and I nearly fell over. I was stupefied. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. When I'd first met this man, who I called pastor, who was a pastor in the church I was at, it was like many years prior, and he was like the head of. He was in charge of looking after guys that were coming into church who had addiction issues. He was clean. He was clean, and he was solid. He didn't play about. He'd cleaned himself up. It was a church I was at. The church I was at dealt with that people who came from those kind of backgrounds. I didn't come from that kind of background, but I liked the church's message. I liked what they were doing, so I went. And I remember him. He had a bit of a way about him I didn't particularly like. I didn't like his tone. I didn't like his ways, but he wasn't a totally horrible person. But I remember he was always very serious about his faith, very serious about doing things the right way, trying to encourage people to come off drugs and alcohol, etc., etc. And I remember in one conversation I had with him, he said that because of how dirty he was on the street, how dirty you could be on the street because you had to sleep on the street, you were picking things up from the ground, you didn't wash for days on end. When he came to church and became a Christian, he was always on about his appearance. He would make sure his nails were clean, his hair was lined up perfectly, his clothes were always clean and pressed, his shoes, they couldn't be, he couldn't wear down his heel, he had to look pristine for him because he just wanted to be as far away from the life he'd come from as possible. But you see, what he had done, he just swapped his heroin and it was for him, religion. He never dealt with the reason why he had been taking drugs in the first place. That was never addressed and it was never dealt with. So one day something happened with him and another one of our pastors, a massive blowout. Until today, I don't know the details and I don't want to know the details. But something happened. And I spotted it because there's one time we're in church, I saw him skulking around at the back. He wasn't in the front where he normally sat. And I thought, oh, what's going on there? And then another church service came. He wasn't in church at all. Then I started to observe that he wasn't there. I thought, okay, well, maybe he's away on doing missions or something like that. He wasn't. Then one day I saw him in the back again. I went up to him and we were talking a little bit. I'm just trying to find out if he's okay because, it's not like we were close again. And because he's a pastor, they tend to always speak to other pastors or people at that level about their issues. Now, I wasn't a pastor, so I can only probe so far, right? So we were just a little bit of small talk and I was asking him, like, why aren't you sitting at the front? Because that's where the pastors usually sat. And he just said, no, that's my place. And I didn't say this to him, but I was thinking, well, then why aren't you sitting there? And if I recall correctly, that was the last time, or one of the last times I saw him in church, that I learned that there'd been this massive fallout. And I started hearing talk that he was back on heroin. I was like, no way, you lot are just wicked. You're just trying to smear his name, because they had a habit of doing that in that church. If you walked away, they'd start talking about, oh, you were this and you were that and blah, blah, blah. It was quite toxic, yeah. So when I started hearing that he was back on heroin, I thought, you lot are just nasty. You're just trying to make out he's doing something simply because he's had the audacity to walk away from his church. No, he's not on heroin. Why would he be on heroin? Do you know what I mean? There's so many people who look into him for encouragement. He's the encouragement to his family, to the people, his old friends on the street who are trying to encourage him to come out of that lifestyle. There is no way he'd fall back on drugs. Then one day, I saw him again outside church. That was the last time I saw him outside church. And I think he'd come to collect his wife. He hadn't come, but she was there. He came to wait for her. I observed he had what I now know as a telltale slick of sweat on his face. When people take a shot of heroin, or have had heroin within the last maybe 20 minutes to half an hour, they start to sweat quite profusely. And whilst though he wasn't sweating profusely, he was sweating. But it was also a very hot day. I remember summer, it was a very hot day. And even though my instincts were saying to me, this is a drug-induced sweat, I just said to myself, well, it's a sunny day. I don't know that. Do you know what I'm saying? Until I've actually seen him taking heroin, or I know for a fact he's taking heroin, I'm not going to follow what these people are saying. So I let it go. And then the next time I saw him was on the street. He looked like he was homeless. He was caked in dirt. The coat he was wearing was filthy. His fingernails were blackened with grime from the street, and he had a smell on him like when someone is homeless, there's a certain scent that they tend to have, and he had that smell. That was never him. He was fastidious from his head to his toe. He always wore one of the best cologne, or the best cologne he could afford to buy, because he wanted to completely move away from the life that he lived on the street. And now he had fallen back into it. Why? Because whatever happened between him and that pastor triggered off the emotions and the feelings that caused him to take drugs all those years earlier. And he now all of a sudden reached back for that drug again, because that was a drug that he would take that would numb that pain. I was so stunned. It remains one of the top 10 most stunning things I've ever witnessed in my life. If you'd seen the man, if you knew who I was talking about, you'd see why. If you knew him how he was when I first knew him, clean, put together, serious about his faith and so on and so forth, and then you saw him that day, the difference couldn't be more stark. And I was so stunned. I didn't know what to say. I was stupefied. It solidified something that I had been thinking about for a long while up until that point, that drugs are about escapism, they're about masking or covering pain. But when something happens to bring that pain back up again, people reach for that drug that used to help them to deal with or numb that pain. Even if it's been decades since they last did so, if they haven't been given the tools to deal with that issue. And it was so sad. I mean, he's still alive today. He's doing well now, as far as I can tell. He's no longer a pastor, hasn't been a pastor since that time. But as far as I know, he's doing well, as far as I know. The pain or trauma that you have will stay with you until you deal with it. You can be trying whatever you can to block it out. It's not going anywhere. It will remain and continue to manifest itself in destructive behaviors, whether that's drug addiction or alcoholism, or in explosive, rages at people, or in destructive relationships, or in self-harming in some way, shape or form, or in sex addiction, or you become a workaholic. These addictive behaviors or these obsessive behaviors, these kind of things are revelations that something is wrong on a heart level. Something is wrong inside. Until we face it, until we name it, until we speak about it and are given the tools to deal with it, it'll continue to fester. Any pain you've been through, any trauma you've been through won't go away just because you want it to. It just won't. It'll remain and continue to manifest itself in destructive patterns in your life, as with the pastor I told you about and with this lady who passed away this morning, or yesterday night. It will manifest itself in some way, shape or form. The manifestation is typically destructive. Please don't feel shame or feel embarrassed about reaching out to someone for help. We've got to really get over this stigma that if you reach out for help, you're weak, or you don't know how to sort yourself out, or you don't know how to stand on your own 2 feet. That's nonsense. We all need each other. The wisdom that you need to help with your situation could well lie with somebody else. I believe that God has created things in such a way that we need relationships. We need each other, because you will have something that will benefit me. I will have something that will benefit you. If we don't talk, we're never going to know that, right? So don't feel shame. Do not feel ashamed about reaching out and asking for help. Your silence has given your hidden pain everything that it needs to flourish. Silence is its fuel. That's what it needs to stay growing, to get to the root cause of any addictions or destructive behavior patterns you might have. You have to speak out. You have to reach out for help, and the help is there for you. Whatever goals or resolutions you're making for yourself this year, whatever you've got on your vision board, add healing to it. It is time for you to be healed. It is time for you to break free from whatever has been causing you to live in a twilight zone of sorts for many, many years. Really is time for you to find somebody, whether it's a person or organization, that has a tool to equip you to deal once and for all with what it is you're going through. That process can take a number of years, but isn't it worth it? It will be worth it. Time's going to pass anyway. You might as well let that time pass with you healing with every passing year. You know what it is you need. You know what it is that's keeping you awake at night. You know what it is that's causing you to cry in secret. You know what pain it is you're masking and hiding, and you know why. Whatever your issues are, it's now time to deal with it. It's a perfect time. January is that time where people are making resolutions, they want to change, do this and the other. It's the perfect time. Well, any day is a perfect time, really. Let's just be honest. But as we are in January, let's not put off until tomorrow what we can do today. If you need to start looking for a therapist or a counsellor, start looking. If you need to make amends, if you need to get help for an addiction or something, set the wheels in motion to start doing that today. I promise you, as painful as it is at the beginning, it won't always be that way. If you're connected with the right person, it will eventually get better as you're released of these things over time. My whole thing is about truthfulness. I don't want to be a kind of person that glosses over things. The truth is the truth, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. The only way you can deal with that is by facing it head on and start to tackle it. Scripture says, the truth shall make you free. What is the truth you need to tell to yourself that will make you free in your own life? Think about that. Don't spend another day carrying a burden that could lead to your demise. There is someone who will be able to point you. If they're not able to help themselves, they'll be able to signpost you to the people that can help you. There is help available for you. Just lose the shame, the full sense of shame in asking for it. There is nothing to be ashamed about. If you need help, you need help. We all need help. I've needed help. I'm going to need help in the future too. There's no shame in asking for it. So my plea to you, my call to action to you is, if you need help, reach out for the help. Whatever you need to set you on your journey of healing, please take that step today. It's Monday, first day of the week. What better time? Let's live authentically this year, as much as we possibly can. Let's live intentionally, but authentically. Let's start taking off the masks. Let's just start being honest about where we stand. If we're in pain, let's say we're in pain. If we're not happy, let's say we're not happy. Let's just tell the truth about where we stand so we can get the help that we need. So that's it from me today. Thank you for listening. As always, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, like, comment. Like I say, I do love reading your comments. Please leave a comment and I'll read it and I'll respond to you. So whatever you're doing today, take care, enjoy the rest of your day, and be safe and be warm because it is freezing over here. Yeah. So I'll speak to you again this week. Take care. Bye-bye.